Welcome, Amakhosi Network. Welcome to the channel. Today we're getting on to part 2 of the segment that we created, where we discuss if Chiefs were to go and fire every Chiefs player, meaning at the end of the season, if Chiefs were said, asenfoni nonke, hamba nonke, if Chiefs had to say, everyone leave Kaizer Chiefs, leave your Cox, leave everything that Chiefs has given you, and then go back to Kwakwa or wherever you come from, and you will no longer be a Chiefs player. Which Chiefs players do us as fans feel like we would say, no, but keep this one? These ones still deserve to be Kaizer Chiefs players. This is something we have to ask. In the previous round, we were touching on goalkeepers and defenders, but today we're going to touch on defensive midfielders, which we didn't cover in the last game, and we're also going to touch on just the general midfielders, because we're going to chat about the potential and everything that we want to try get out of this conversation. Let's go for it. So the players that we are going to now talk about is going to be Sibongiseni Mthethwa, Yusuf Matsi, Tebe, Castillo, Samkelo Zwane, Sabelo Hadebe, Mduduzi Mdantsane, Nkosi Mpilo Ngcobo, Umatlo Mfundo Vilakazi, Kigen Dolly, and then the Bullets. Actually, let's leave Mfundo Vilakazi and Kigen Dolly out of this one. We're going to cover those guys in the next round as the proper attackers. So let's get to it. Sibongiseni Mthethwa. So, if Chiefs were to say we are firing everyone, would we as fans keep Sibongiseni Mthethwa? And this is where it's going to be difficult, because Sibongiseni Mthethwa, unfortunately, has been playing with the PUB Chiefs team, so he hasn't had a chance to really show people what he's got. And for me, what I've seen in the few games that he shows good potential, but you just need to find the right coach and know how to use him. Let me put it to you this way. Sibongiseni Mthethwa should never be a player you're going to use to be a creative player. He should just be there to be a Khahlela Zonke. Meaning what Khahlela Zonke means, he should be a sweeper, a cleaner. Meaning that if one day Chiefs is in a final and we're winning 2-0 and we feel like we're going to win this game, but we need to show up our players, you take out an attacker and you put Sibongiseni Mthethwa and say, anyone who comes close to the box, eliminate. That is the role of Sibongiseni Mthethwa. Another example I can give you, a comp of a player who used to play that role, is basically Tinashe Ningomashe. Tinashe Ningomashe used to just be a cleaner. Any nonsense that came into Chiefs half, he cleaned it. Katsande almost basically played that Tinashe role clean. He sweeps everything, and that is the role he played. So would we keep Sibongiseni Mthethwa? So my thing is that right now it's difficult to find in a country someone who specifically plays that role. If there was a person we can point out and say that's the person, then yes, I would say sign that person. But the person who specifically plays that role in South Africa is Tebogo Mokoena. But as we all know, there aren't a lot of Tebogo Mokwenas in South Africa, and for whatever reason, and I don't know why, South Africa is not producing a lot of defensive midfielders like we did in the past. It's very rare to find a player like Tebogo Mokoena in today's day and age, but in the past, like early 2000s and before, defensive midfielders were easy to find. Everybody was general. Bega Katlelwa wonke umuntu was the most creative person, was general, was basically, that was a South African identity, is a player playing as a number 6. But today, in today's day and age, we don't find these players. So for me, without going too far into it, I would say at this point in my career, in my assessment, I would say it's too early for us to make a judgment on Mthethwa. It's too early for us to make that judgment. So for me, I would say I would keep him. I would keep him to be an option that you should just have in your team. When I say have an option that you should just have in your team, I feel like he will be important in a very dominant defensive Chiefs team in the future, meaning that he's a good person just to have on the bench or whatever, or or just having your team, as someone who you can put in and who can basically solidify your team and make your team stronger. So that's why I would say, for me, I know a lot of you don't agree, but for me, I would say keep Umthetwa. I want to see one more season with a good coach before I make a decision of saying let him go, because with Kevin Johnson can make Cristiano Ronaldo look like Upimenyimana. If we have to be honest, Cristiano Ronaldo can look like Pimenyimana when coached by Kevin Johnson. I just have to be honest. Yusuf Mat, no, I would not keep Yusuf Mat. I don't think he has solidified himself in any role. As a number 6, he tackles, he loses the ball. And this is not something from this season alone. He's done this under Athazwane, Molefe, and now Kevin Johnson. And it clearly shows there's fundamentals in Yusuf Mat's game. That's a very big problem. And it kind of brings you to why Pirates didn't see a future in Yusuf Mat's game, even though he was even a captain of the MDC of Pirates team. They still didn't recognize his abilities as being the future. Me, when I used to watch Yusuf Mat at Sekhukhune, I didn't see him as a good player for Chiefs. Even when he was playing for Bafana at that time, I didn't see him as a good prospect for Chiefs, but somehow we bought him. Because for me personally, during that time when Yusuf Mat was in Bafana and playing for Sekhukhune, etc., the two players who looked like they were doing a lot in Yusuf Mat's position was obviously the Ndlondlos, there was the Miguel teams. These are the players who looked like they were doing a lot of things in those positions. There are other players, obviously, but I can't remember that back. Who are the players? Obviously, there's Tebogo Mokoena was at SuperSport during those days. So those were the players. Sipho Mbule was also doing well during those days. And I'm sure there's Abo Mbanjwa were young at that time. Now Mbanjwa is old. So I'm just giving an example of players who were doing better than Yusuf Mat, but she still picked Yusuf Mat. So me, I would not pick Yusuf Mat. Sithebe is old now. As a 30-year-old, he cannot be making the mistakes he's making now. So for me, Sithebe, no. I would also not re-sign him. Sithebe must go. If Chiefs released him, I'd say sharp Chiefs. Bye. Castillo, this one is a difficult one. One of you guys commented on my previous video, and you actually said something very good, and I want to actually read that comment, because as much as I made a decision, I think your point was very. So this comment is from Crazy Za 1994. He said, let's judge him with a new coach, because he came in and showed more. I think now he's out of form due to fatigue. And that was a very good comment. Crazy Za, that is a perfect comment. And I agree with you from that end. Maybe we must give Castillo another chance. We need to, like Umthetwa, maybe it's best to give Castillo another chance with a new coach. It's just that for me, he looks like a positionless player. I don't see where he fits in. He's not creative going up front. He's not the most creative going up front. And when he plays as a defensive midfielder, he lacks awareness. So a lot of the times, the strikers running from behind always get the ball from him because he's just not aware. But at the same time, like you guys are saying, it's better to have a new coach. But for the purposes of this video, I would sell him to a North African team if a good offer came. Because I feel like as a foreign player, you cannot get, even if your team is bad, you should never go down to the quality of your of the poor performance of your team. You should always be playing above the level of your team. And the example I made is Umdu Shabalala is playing above the level of the Kaizer Chiefs team that is playing right now, despite how poor the coaching is. And that is what I expected from Castillo. I expected him to rise above the poor performance of his teammates, So that's why I'm saying I would let him go. Sabelo Khatebe, I would let him go. Stellenbosch is a good place for him. TS Galaxy is a good place for him. Duduzim Danzane, I know people just love him Danzane because when he was in form, he did well. But for me, from Baroka, I always said he's a nice player, but I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket. So now I would say he must go. Nkosimphihle Ngcobo, he must stay, definitely. He just needs the right coach. I will continue to say this again and again. He needs a proper fitness coach. He needs a right coach, because he is basically, the best example I can make is, if you watch Phil Foden in his early days at Manchester City, he was not getting played. That's because Pep was trying to take out the errors Foden had in his game, because he's a small player, because he wasn't always the fastest player. Pep was cooking him. And I remember a lot of the times the commentators and just people around football used to say, Phil Foden must leave Manchester City because Pep is not doing the right things with the boy, he's not playing with the boy. And Pep was like, he will play when I believe he's ready, because now he's not ready. And it basically happened with, for example, Cole Palmer, same story. We can see how good they are, but Pep sees something and he wants you to, to cook you more. Matlo, I would release Matlo. I like Matlo's energy, but at this point in Kaizer Chiefs, if they were releasing everyone, there's nothing that I can point at for. Matlo's energy is good. I'll say that. He has that Chiefs fight in him. He has that Chiefs heart in him. But this season, he showed glimpses of goodness. But in last season, he was poor. So I don't know what Matlo we're going to get, which is my problem. If I don't know what Matlo I'm going to get in the next seasons, then how can I count on that player? So I'd also let Matlo go. So to sum things up, I would keep players. I'll keep a player like Nkosimphihle Ngcobo, and I'd keep Umthetho, because Umthetho didn't even get to have a pre-season with Kaizer Chiefs. So I'd keep Umthetho for that specific reason. And Castillo is, I don't know. I'd prefer to sell him to a North African team. But that's my midfield for now, that I would release. You guys tell me what you guys think about this. But before I go, I want to make a video this week where I touch on the fact that, Mara guys, grand, will we ever see Kaizer Chiefs dominate in our generation? When I say our generation, I'm like in the next, 30 to 40 years, will we still live to see a Kaizer Chiefs that dominates the league? Will we live to see it? Will we live to see a Kaizer Chiefs that dominates the league, or will we live to see a Kaizer Chiefs that gets relegated from the league, or a Kaizer Chiefs that's always fighting relegation like we are right now? Because the truth is, Kaizer Chiefs has around 36 points right now. Kaizer Chiefs has 36 points right now. Sundowns, if I'm not mistaken, has about above 73 points, somewhere there, meaning that Sundowns is almost beating Chiefs in this league by almost 40 points. Do you get that Sundowns is beating Chiefs in this season by almost 40 points? Do you know that getting 40 points in the league means that you are not fighting relegation? It means that Sundowns could play two teams in our leagues. Sundowns could play almost two teams in our leagues, and they will still have basically the same amount of points as Chiefs. Chiefs has been that poor. So Sundowns is leaving us by almost 40 points. It's even crazy for me to say 40 points, because remember in the past seasons, teams used to win the league with 55 points. So if Sundowns is leaving us with 40 points, which is basically 15 points from what previous teams, the previous leagues we used to win the league by, that is a crazy number. And in saying that, a lot of you don't get that Chiefs is so poor that they're actually close to our relegation teams. They're actually close to Cape Town Spurs and Richards Bay. Maybe more Richards Bay than Cape Town Spurs. But these teams are like, Richards Bay, I think, is almost like 3 to 4 wins away from catching Chiefs. In a reality, if they had to win 3 or 4 games, they passed 3 or 4 games, they probably would have caught Chiefs. That is how easy it is, So let me know what you guys think about these players. Let me know if you guys believe Kaizer Chiefs is Obuya or Kaizer Chiefs I send a moya. A time if The one other player I forgot to mention is Samkelo Zwane. Definitely keep Samkelo Zwane. I don't even know why this guy was not on top of the list. But Samkelo Zwane, we keep. We want to see what the boy's future is going to be. And I feel like he hasn't been given the chance to really show what he can really do, but he also has to fix his attitude. But hopefully that comes with a coach who knows discipline and knows how to work these boys.